Wife has breast cancer, new baby, you're out of the SEAL teams, the idea of Blackwater.
Yeah, in my experience in working up for those deployments, we moved around a lot, and so I thought training was very fragmented. You're going to Tennessee, Nevada, West Virginia, Virginia, bouncing all over the place, Puerto Rico, and I'd thought a lot about seeing what the SEAL teams, a private facility in Tennessee, Mid South, right, where the SEAL teams used to go. Maybe they still do. I thought, now someone has to do that on an industrial scale, and I was in an unusual position to do that, right? I mean, so in the late '90s, you have this peace dividend and defense cuts, and they're closing a major base per week across the country, right? Whether it's an Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine base, there was bases closing and ranges closing and all the rest. So this idea of building a private facility was counterintuitive to most. Like every smart financial advisor I ever said that's a terrible idea. But build it and they will come. I didn't know anything about development, land development, anything about government contracting, or really anything about business. But I had a pretty good idea that there was a demand and that the teams needed something like that. And you kind of go back to the well that you know of the people you trust, right? So I hired the two training officers from SEAL Team 8, Ken Vieira and Jim Sorowski. Jim came later because he wanted to go be a cop after he retired. But Ken and a guy named Al Clark, and we got Jim Dehart, who had been the facilities guy at Dev Group. I mean, unknown secret is that our first shoot house was built by all the Dev Group maintenance guys who came out on the weekends for pizza and beer, and they welded up one of the largest and still most effective shoot houses in the country. So it was, finding land. I wanted to have it within an hour drive of Norfolk to make it easy for people training or living in Norfolk to come and train, do what they have to do, and still make it home in time for their, dinner with their families. And we had to go through all kinds of ass pain with the two counties because one county rejected us. The other county accepted us. Camden accepted us. And so went through all the machinations of that and then built it. And actually our first customer was from the West Coast, a West Coast SEAL platoon that came to Blackwater, and he just kind of ground along for the first few years. And it was really our target business that saved the business early on because we had very destructive customers who destroyed everything that we'd ever bought on the outside. And Jim Dehart and a very practical, down-to-earth, I would say solid state mentality, built these steel targets, which were indestructible. And other customers that came loved them. And so I remember at the end of the fiscal year, one night on September 30 at 11:55 p.m., the fax machine started, and out came an order from the FBI, oddly enough, to equip like 15 field offices with our target systems. And that really kept the lights on at Blackwater for the year because the training business wasn't strong enough to pay the bills. So training and targets kept it going together. And then when Columbine happened, we ended up building a big mock-up of a fighting city. We built it out as a high school, and it was called Are You Ready High School? Because the thing about Columbine is you had all these police departments. Columbine was a active shooter incident early in the 90s before, unfortunately, it became a more commonplace event. We did all these departments with all this nice gear standing around outside and nobody going in to solve the immediate threat. And so I guess our contribution in our own way was to train tens of thousands of SWAT officers from a surround and negotiate mentality to a whoever's there, take a stack of 2 men or 4 men or however many you could put together, go move to the sound of the guns and put that fire out. And that was the first big volume program we did. Our first classified program was for the Coast Guard, oddly enough, teaching them how to shoot drug boat motors out of a helicopter with a 50 cal, right? Because you had all kinds of drug boats and the helicopters would interdict them and they'd say, stop. And they'd say, yeah, fuck off, right? And they would keep going and keep going. And so we taught the Coast Guard how to shoot each of those motors out with a 50 cal, so that by the time they were arrested, the drug runners were very happy to be arrested and rescued.